Welcome to Note Lab Mode. Today we are really getting into some fresh research, stuff that kind of pulls back the curtain on what's actually happening with AI usage online right now.
That's right. Yeah, we've been digging into this really fascinating new report. It tracks global web traffic for AI platforms, so it gives us a real data-driven look at user behavior.
And our mission here, in this deep dive is to unpack the most important findings. We want to understand not just like where the traffic is going for these generative AI tools,
Yeah,
but also the ripple effects this is having on, well, the more traditional parts of the internet.
exactly. It's kind of a shortcut to seeing where user attention and interaction with AI are really heading, and that has some big implications.
Definitely. And okay, before we dive right into the data, just a quick word about who's making this deep dive possible today.
Right.
Today's Note Lab Mode is brought to you by CloudFit.ai.
Cloudfit.ai. They're tackling a really interesting challenge, actually, in e-commerce.
They really are. They figured out how to connect influencer outfits like directly to your product inventory. So, when someone sees an influencer wearing something they like,
Yeah.
that content becomes instantly shoppable right there.
Oh, okay. So the practical benefit there is pretty clear then, right? It drives more sales and
Exactly.
probably a higher average order value for the business.
Precisely. So if you work with influencers or maybe you're just looking for new ways to make that content convert, you could visit cloudfit.ai. That's spelled CLOUTFIT.ai.
CLOUTFIT.ai. Got it.
Go check them out. CLOUTFIT.ai.
And look, if you find the insights we're sharing today valuable, maybe, share this deep dive with
Oh,
someone you think might find it useful.
absolutely. Yeah, please do. And make sure you're subscribed to Note Lab Mode so you don't miss future deep dives. We dig into some really compelling research like this one.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into this report then. It's from the market research firm, SimilarWeb.
Right. SimilarWeb.
And they looked at global web traffic patterns for AI-related platforms. This was over a 12-week period leading up to May 9, 2025.
Yeah, and they track trends across a bunch of different sectors, general purpose AI tools, coding assistants, content generators, but also, and this is key, how these are causing disruption downstream.
Downstream, like where?
Well, in traditional sectors, think education, search, digital freelancing, stuff like that.
Okay, that seems incredibly relevant, especially, I imagine, for anyone, building tech or making decisions in a company. Why is web traffic data like this so important? Is it just about knowing which sites are popular?
Well, no, it's more than that. It's a direct read on user familiarity and expectation. Think about it. Your employees, your customers, they're already playing around with or maybe even regularly using popular external AI tools.
Like ChatGPT, Claude?
Exactly. ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, Grok, they're using these on their own time.
Right. So if the internal AI tools you roll out or the products you build don't offer a similar kind of experience.
Then you're probably fighting an uphill battle with adoption.
Yeah. This data basically maps that baseline expectation. If you can align your internal AI stuff with the kinds of tools and experiences that already have traction externally,
People already get it
exactly, you could potentially cut down on onboarding, on training time.
because users already have that mental model for how it should work. Makes sense.
Precisely. Which, leads to faster trust, better usability, and ultimately quicker value from your AI investments. So this report, it gives you a snapshot of what that user landscape looks like right now.
Okay, that frames it really well. So the report boils it down to 5 key findings from all this traffic data. Where should we start? Which one's first?
Let's kick off with what the report found about developer tools, coding assistants, and the like.
All right, developer tools. What's the story there?
Okay, so finding 1. Usage of developer AI and coding tools is rising fast, and I mean really fast.
How fast are we talking? Is this just like a gradual growth or are we talking a surge? It's a surge. Traffic to this whole category is up a pretty significant 75% over just the 12 weeks they tracked.
Wow, 75%.
Yeah, that's a strong signal these tools are moving, from maybe being novelties to actually being necessities for software teams.
75% in 12 weeks is... Yeah, that's intense. Were there any specific examples that really stood out on the report? Any particular tools?
Yeah, they highlighted one called Lovable. It saw a truly massive spike. We're talking over 17,600% growth in traffic.
17,000%.
Yeah. And another one called Cursor showed really steady month-over-month growth, too. So different patterns, but both pointing up.
Okay, over 17,000%. That number is just wild. What does this huge surge and also that steady growth What does it imply for the software world, do you think?
Well, it suggests these tools aren't just, experimental little add-ons anymore. They seem to be becoming essential infrastructure. And that kind of explains some of the big moves we've seen lately, right? Like OpenAI reportedly trying to buy Cursor
Oh.
and finalizing that deal for another platform called Windsurf. It all fits.
So the data basically backs up why the big players want a piece of this coding AI market. Probably because their models are powering a lot of it anyway.
Frankly, yeah.
Okay, so that's a clear growth story. What about some of the other tools, the general purpose ones that got a lot of buzz? We heard so much about Grok and DeepSeek not long ago.
Right. And that brings us neatly to finding number two, which is maybe a bit of a cautionary tale about hype. It's the quick rise and fall of Grok and DeepSeek traffic.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I remember seeing headlines about Grok's explosive growth.
It was explosive. For a very short time, Grok's traffic, it just skyrocketed over 1,000% in March. A lot of that seemed driven by its uncensored branding and, of course, the Elon Musk connection.
1,000,000%. I mean, that sounds kind of unsustainable right from the jump, doesn't it?
It seems the data agrees. By early May, so not long after, that traffic had fallen back by more than 5,200%.
Wow, okay.
And DeepSeek, it followed a pretty similar pattern. Huge growth initially, peaking at over 17,700% before crashing down 41%.
So what's the big takeaway then, according to the report, from these really rapid boom and bust cycles?
Well, the clear message from this data seems to be that virality, that initial hype, it just cannot replace user retention and, sustained engagement. These platforms grabbed massive attention. For a moment, yeah. But they couldn't hold on to users, especially compared to the more established players like OpenAI or even just legacy platforms like Google Search. It really highlights how quickly user interest can shift if the underlying value proposition or the retention strategy isn't really there.
That's a critical lesson. Definitely something for anyone launching AI products right now to think about. Okay, so shifting gears a bit from general chat and coding, what about writing tools? That seemed like one of the earliest, most obvious use cases for Gen AI.
Yeah, you'd think so. But finding three suggests that user enthusiasm here might actually be waning a bit. The finding is AI writing tools are fading fast.
Really? Fading? I would have thought that market would still be growing pretty strong.
Well, the report shows overall traffic to this category actually fell 11% over those 12 weeks. The author suggests it might be user fatigue setting in.
11% drop overall. Were there specific tools mentioned that saw big drops?
Yeah, they mentioned several that were trending downward pretty significantly. WordTune traffic was down 35%, Jasper was down 19%, and RightTry down 23%.
Those are some big names in that space. Were there any exceptions to that decline? Anyone bucking the trend?
Just one they noted. Originality.ai actually saw steady gains. But, and this is important, the report suggests the reason it grew is because its focus is on AI detection, not generation.
Okay. So different angle within that whole text space. Interesting. So why might the overall writing tool market be declining then? Did the research authors offer any potential reasons?
They suggested a couple of possibilities. One could just be market saturation.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these tools out there now, many offering pretty similar capabilities. Or maybe there's a growing skepticism about the actual quality of AI-generated text for certain tasks. And they also pointed to something we kind of touched on earlier. Users might just be defaulting to the big general-purpose chatbots.
Like ChatGPT or Gemini.
Exactly. For writing help. I mean, text input and output is their default interface anyway.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. If my main AI tool can draft an email for me, maybe I don't feel the need for a separate, dedicated email drafting AI tool anymore.
Precisely. User convenience often wins out.
Okay, so we've covered coding, general chat, writing. What about the creative space?
Yeah.
Generating images or design assets. How's that looking?
So that's finding four. And it describes a market that's showing, well, the report says AI image generators and design tools show extreme volatility.
Volatility. Okay, what does that look like in the traffic numbers? Is it up, down, all over the place?
It's kind of all over the place, yeah. The report calls it a mixed bag. Overall usage for the category actually dipped slightly, down about 6% over the 12 weeks. But within that small overall dip, you see these wild swings.
Okay, give me an example of those swings then.
All right, so you've got platforms seeing huge gains. Getting Milligum, for example, saw a massive 1,532% increase in traffic.
1,500%.
Yeah, and Artbreeder jumped 100%. But at the exact same time, others saw really significant declines. Stable Diffusion, Looka, both showing double-digit percentage drops.
Wow. Okay, so massive winners and pretty significant losers happening simultaneously in that one market. What's the likely driver behind such an erratic pattern, according to the research?
Well, the research suggests this volatility probably reflects a really, really crowded market. There are just tons of tools offering kind of overlapping functions, and the competition is fierce. Success might depend heavily on, novelty or trending features, or maybe just aesthetics that grab attention for a little while in a very dynamic visual space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Creativity can definitely be driven by what's new and visually interesting at the moment.
Hmm.
Okay, so finally, beyond the AI tools themselves, what did the report find about the impact this is all having on more traditional online services?
Right, and this is finding five, and it's a pretty big indicator of the broader impact AI is having. Finding five, AI is impacting legacy tech like crowdsourcing and search.
Impacting how? How is that showing up in the data? Are users actually abandoning traditional platforms for AI alternatives?
Well, the report points to these slow but pretty steady declines in traffic for several really well-established digital services, and it suggests that AI substitution is likely playing a role.
Substitution like AI taking over tasks people used to hire freelancers for. Is that the idea?
Precisely, yeah. The report specifically highlights drops for major freelance platforms. Fiverr traffic was down 17%. Upwork saw an even steeper drop, down 19%.
Wow.
And the implication is pretty clear. Users are potentially using AI now for tasks like generating code snippets or writing marketing copy or creating design drafts, stuff they might have previously outsourced on those platforms.
Okay, that's a direct hit on the gig economy model then. What about things like search engines?
Yeah, search engines too. Yahoo was down 12%, Bing down 14%. And the report notes this isn't new. It actually continues a multi-quarter decline for both of them. Chatbots and AI summaries are likely offering people an alternative way to get information, bypassing traditional search sometimes.
And the debt on education platforms, that was particularly stark, wasn't it? I remember seeing those numbers.
It really was, yeah. Consumer edtech platforms seem to be seeing massive declines, according to this data. Chegg traffic was down 62%,
62%.
and Course Hero saw a staggering 68% drop.
62 and 68% drops in traffic for major education help sites. I mean, that's not a slow erosion, is it? That looks more like a cliff dive.
It's incredibly significant, yeah. And it points pretty directly to students potentially turning straight to AI for homework help or explanations or maybe even essay drafting. These drops across freelancing, search, and education, they're really clear signs of, let's call it early stage AI disruption, just eating away at the core utility of some of these legacy platforms.
And it's got to be a wake-up call, right? For any business that either relies on or provides those kinds of services, the ground is shifting. And it seems to be shifting fast.
That really is the overall picture painted by this report's web traffic data. You've got explosive growth in developer tools. You have this rapid boom and bust cycle for platforms maybe relying too much on just viral hype.
Right.
A noticeable slowdown in the general AI writing category, that extreme volatility we talked about in creative AI tools, and then this clear evidence of disruption hitting established online services like freelancing, search, and especially education.
It's a really dynamic landscape, to say the least. This research truly highlights just how quickly user behavior can shift when powerful new tools become widely available. From the surging adoption of coding assistants that we saw to the really dramatic declines in some traditional services, it's clear AI isn't just changing what we do online, but fundamentally how we do it and where we choose to spend our time and attention.
Absolutely. And it just underscores that understanding these user trends based on actual data like this is so crucial for anyone trying to build things, adapt their business, or even just navigate the digital world today.
Okay, so thinking about all these rapid shifts we've just discussed, here's maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. Given how quickly user behavior is changing with AI, this report makes that crystal clear. What other areas might be next for disruption? And maybe more importantly, how can we use data like this, these traffic patterns, to anticipate or adapt to those shifts before they completely reshape an industry?
It's really about looking ahead by constantly watching the data that's right here in the present, isn't it?
That's a powerful question to leave you with. If you found this NoteLab Mode deep dive helpful, please do consider sharing it with a friend or a colleague.
Yeah, and make sure you're subscribed to NoteLab Mode so you don't miss out on future deep dives into important research like this one.
And our thanks again to Cloutfit.ai for sponsoring this deep dive. Remember, find them at cloutfit.ai.
Thank you for joining us today.
And we'll see you next time on NoteLab Mode.